Okay, it's 10:30. I have apologies from the chairman today, so can I ask members to appoint a chairman for the meeting, please?
Could I ask Ronnie? Ogilvy? Any other?
Okay, Councillor Ogilvy, thank you.
My wired for sound, yeah. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Welfare Reform Subcommittee, Tuesday, the 16th of February 2016. Just to remind members that this meeting is recorded and subsequently made available for public listening. Okay, turn to the Sederunt and apologies. There, sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. We have a number of apologies today from Councillor Smith, Councillor McGregor and Councillor Tuckfield. Since the papers have been issued, Councillor Tuckfield has replaced Councillor Carruthers on the subcommittee's membership, and we also have the leader here substituting for Councillor Smith.
Thanks for that, Claire. Any declarations of interest, members? None? Okay, thank you. That takes us to item 3, which is the minutes of the meeting of the 8th of October. These are for approval. Can we approve them? Okay, thank you very much. That quickly takes us to item 4, Discretionary Housing Payments 2015-16 Update, Report by Head of Customer Services. Sorry, I don't know your name. Paula. Thanks, Paula.
Thanks very much. This is an update report on discretionary housing payments policy. We spoke last about this in August last year, where we introduced a tapered approach for customers who are requiring support from the fund. Remember that this tapered approach has nothing to do with the size criteria, which customers are still receiving support for size criteria shortfalls without application. Well, with application, without financial consideration, that's not in dispute. Given the expected challenges that are coming from welfare reform for the next year, we've looked at the funding that we have available and are suggesting a reduction in the length of time customers would receive an award. There will be no change to the stages of the award as we have just now. Still, we are giving suggesting that customers are awarded first off based on if they're in financial hardship, we are not concerned what they are spending their money on, for 6 weeks, the suggestion that I've got for yourselves. Currently that's 10 or 10. Currently that's at 10 weeks, so we're reducing that down to 6. The second stage of any award that a customer would receive is currently set at 13 weeks, where we cap their award based on an assumed maximum for household food and fuel. And then following that, we would cap that award further, so we would only assist after that initial point just now for size criteria equivalent, which is local housing allowance. Customers, we would assist with size criteria equivalent and benefit cap only after that point. We've been working this way since August, and there has been less of an impact than I expected, or less backlash than I expected. I do appreciate that customers have been dealing with the shortfall, but there's not been any evidence of any huge negative impact. The funding we're expecting to receive is detailed in considerations, and following on from drafting of the report, there's been a slight amendment to the allocation from the Department for Work and Pensions, and we have received our initial indications of the Scottish Government's allocation for us for the 80% of the size criteria shortfall expenditure. It hasn't significantly changed the amount of funding we'll have available for the year, and I do still await confirmation of the current year's additional funding from the Scottish Government. Would anyone like me to explain the criteria again? Yeah. The suggestion we have, as we did in August, option 1 is allowing all listed expenditure where officers are not concerned about what customers are spending their money on, as long as there's financial hardship demonstrated on the application, an award would be made. The stringent criteria allocates a level where we deem it to be reasonable that customers to spend on household food and fuel. This level was set in discussions with other Scottish local authorities, and from a straw poll around the staff in the office as well about what's reasonable for the expenditure for their household. The food and fuel cost is obviously unexpected that it's an annual spend, so maybe that in the winter customers are spending more than that on fuel, but over the summer they're spending less, so over the year it would be a reasonable amount on a weekly level. Capping the award at size criteria or benefit cap value effectively means that customers who are impacted by tapers, and that's the amount that the government expects them to contribute themselves to their rent, would not receive assistance in that level. So a customer who has a non-dependent deduction would receive, in the suggestion that I've put forward, no more than 12 weeks. Happy to take questions.
Thanks, Paula. Any questions for Paula? Any points of clarification? Stephen?
Thank you. Just a little question. You mentioned there about the average heating for the year. If we're shortening, or the proposal is to shorten the amount of time where it's allow all listed expenditure, and then there's proposed caps for 6 weeks, sort of increments, if you like. 6 weeks in January, there's going to be a big difference between the heating for 6 weeks in August. So if we're setting that kind of limit, is there a way we can factor in a seasonal heating allowance, for example?
It's certainly a consideration, but from talking about what the cap level is, then it's still a reasonable amount for heating a house in the winter as it is in the summer. I think that would be up to customers to decide when they would best benefit from the award. From the amount of money we've got available, then do people wait until the winter to get their annual allocation, or do they take it in the summer and come back to me again? That's the difficulty. If somebody already had an award in the summer, would they, under your suggestion, be allowed to come back to me again in the winter? And that would double up the expenditure in the fund.
On that, so what you're saying is the money is paid out equally throughout the year. So if people want to save some of that money in the summer, which they're not using, then put that in the winter. But it's up to the customer to do that. Is that what you're saying?
I would say yes. I know not everybody deals with it in the same circumstances, but that's what I do. But what we can do is support customers to budget in that fashion. With cash card meters, if they're spending the money, they can build up a credit in their meter and then use it throughout the winter. But the level that we've set for heating is very favourable in the summer and all right in the winter.
Yeah, Chair, I hear what Ronnie's saying, but these are people living hand to mouth. Not no criticism of Ronnie. That's a fact. And I've heard I'm dealing with one just now, or just come to see me, where we're sending out financial advisors or money advisors to try and see how they can manage their budget. But no matter how you manage, if there's more going out, then you'll never be able to square the circle. you'll never be able to do that. And indeed, I hear what Paul is saying, you know, no negative impact, not the flak. There's been an increase in the number of using the food banks, and that's reported. So, you know, I take it maybe Paula could answer, but, you know, is this idea of tapering because of the money we've got available and there's not enough, because I think it was when Lorna was at the area committee meeting, there is an increase in applications. So we're seeing an increase in applications, and then we're talking about tapering. I think that we're creating difficulties. No, we are creating difficulties. There are difficulties out there for people that are not going to be met, and all we're going to see is an increase in poverty, and people really struggling if we go down this road. And I just wonder what the answer is in terms of being able to deliver for these people. Common thread, Paula referred to university, universal credits, the whole lot, you know, that, in my opinion, is going to have an impact. So, you know, it's not a pleasant, and I'm sure it's no for any of the two women, it's not a pleasant report, it's a reality. And I just wonder if we're going the right, you know, on tapering, that what's being created, not what we're creating, but what's being created is abject poverty.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, probably just to clarify, when I was at area committee last week, we referred to the number of application reduction. I was referring to about the Scottish Welfare Fund and not for the DHP, but I take on board what you're saying, really. But I think the policy that Paula and the team have come up with is based around the funding that we do have available. How best do we utilise the funding that's actually there? We're not saying that people are coping better when we're reducing it. I think it's just the reality of how best do we use the fund that we have to support as many people as we can to some degree. Now, the options we have is a longer taper with shorter rewards, or do we front load it and we give maximum help for 6 months and then no help for 6 months? The proposal we're coming with today is we're giving it for a longer period over the year, but it's slowly reducing the amount of support we can give to people. And I think we are cash restricted. And I think what we've got in the report here is the funds that we're using what's left in the reserves, and we're fully using that over the next year. Once we get into 2017-18, the following year, we will have no reserves left if we, you know, go with the proposal we've currently got. So we'll be back with probably an even stricter policy, because we just will not have the funds to, you know, give what we've currently got. So probably what's part of what we've got to do over this next year is identify where the, you know, potential difficulties will be, and you know, present them back to committee to see when it comes to next year, you know, we're going to have a bigger problem than we've currently got. We may get more funds from DWP. They are suggesting that as more of the welfare reform changes start to ramp up, but we don't know what that was, and I do not anticipate that it will be sufficient to meet the demand that we will have.
I don't know what it means is okay. I think we all know what the answer is politically in terms of, you know, universal credit, and indeed, you know, why people need the payment that they do. It's really, you know, the wisdom of Solomon's needed here in terms of how do we try and manage this so that people out there only suffering this abject poverty, and it is. It's abject poverty that they are, whether it's winter time, summertime. Just, I don't know.
Okay, thanks for that, Willie. Ronnie?
Just on that, I wasn't making any statement, Willie. I was just asking a question regarding it. It's a position that not one of us in here, I would say, wants to be in. And it is a matter of managing the resources that we've got and doing the best. We didn't put ourselves in this position. It's not something that any of us wanted, but we are here with that. And, you know, from what I can see, you're trying to do your best with the limited funding you've got, and to make it as long term as what you can throughout that. And you know, as you were saying, Lorna, that, you know, there's uncertainty beyond that as well, and you've got to make assumptions regarding that uncertainty. And what I can see here is that, you know, it's the only thing we can do. And I'm just on this committee, so I don't, you know, just from.
Stephen?
Thanks again. Yeah, it's just to get a wee bit of clearer understanding on, I think you've got there page 14, and it's just examples in Appendix 3 in terms of the options that are being suggested. So, like say option 5 or 6, for example, so there's a period of time where you're suggesting a tapered approach, so it's so many weeks, 8 weeks in this case, at whatever amount, and then reapplicants, so that would be like 32 weeks basically, and then there would be an opportunity to reapply, you know, if the situation's not changed or whatever. So that 8 weeks at 50% previous award, does that mean which bit? Yeah.
So the suggestion is that reapplicants would receive 8 weeks at 50% of their previous award level.
The initial award at the very first point of receiving support?
No, half of 57.78.
Any further points? Should we turn to the recommendations? 2.1, note the Department of Work and Pensions and the Scottish Government's indicative allocation of discretionary housing payments for 2016-17 as detailed in paragraph 3.1. We note that. Thank you. 2.2, note the expected value of council reserves committed to discretionary housing payments for 2015 as detailed in paragraph 3.4. And then 2.3, consider the options in Appendix 2 and 3 and agree to amend the current award criteria to adopting the ongoing 6 and option on-off 2 as detailed in paragraph 3.10. We're happy to accept that after what we've heard? Oh, not happy. Can we accept what we've heard? Willie, you want to?
Yeah, Chair, again, I'll bang the drum, and I hope we can, you know, from what Lorna said in terms of reserves, and I know that you're still saying that, you know, there's still reserves there that we're going to use, but come 16, 17 and onward, there may not be. Is it the time and the opportunity for us to lobby the Scottish Government again on discretionary housing payment? They did make it available when they said it wasn't available during the time of the bedroom tax, where they made 50 million available. So it's again to tease out with them. Is there money there in the Scottish coffers that they can release for this committee to make representation on the back of what Paula and Lorna have said, so that, you know, we are facing abject poverty. There are people that are going to suffer, and I think it's politically it's the right time to go, given the May elections, and to see, you know, do they want to, you know, Scottish people to suffer this? Where we do need extra money coming way by of discretionary housing payments, not just for size criteria, but for many other issues that we're finding they're applying for. I think it's, you know, that we lobby or make representation to the Scottish Government, that it be through COSLA or direct.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's quite acceptable for us to do, you know, make representations. I don't know, just from the feedback I've been getting on representation, I don't know how much success we'll have, right? But yeah, I mean, that's something that I suppose we could do if the committee decides that. One of the things is, you know, this isn't taken in isolation as well. You know, it's all the other aspects of, you know, the poverty and that, and the effect, the impact, budgets. I've just heard this morning, and I can't confirm it, but, you know, I've just heard this morning, for example, that the Scottish Government is cutting 20% of the funding of alcohol and drug partnership. Now, that, you know, and I don't know what kind of effect that will have, because it has a knock-on effect in all different things, including housing, including benefits and that. But, you know, as I said, I can't confirm that, but I heard that this morning. So it's all these other things that's going in the background again that has the larger impact.
Okay, thanks for that. In regards to 2.3, we agree what's recommended here. Further to write, or how best to do that, is to lobby or say, you know, there is a real need here. We could review this again by be reviewed again by the Scottish Government. How best do we do that? How have we done it in the past? Is it we write as a committee, or do we go to the parent committee, or we just leave it to officers? Ronnie?
I think if officers can write up something about the impact it's having in Dumfries and Galloway, and then the chair can sign that or whatever. You know, if they come back with something and we leave delegate that to officers, and then delegate to the chair to sign it.
Yes, can I ask a separate question? And I should have asked this earlier, forgive me. Do we take any account at all of differential costs across the region?
From the data gather, we didn't identify any significant differentials based on postcode. Not significant.
No differences in rents or food costs or travel costs? I'm quite interested in that.
There's mild differences in rents. However, the food costs that are indicated on applications and the travel costs indicated on applications were not significantly different across the postcode. Although we do know that the people that are applying are clustered, but clustered in the same pattern as our benefit applicants. So we've got postcodes that have a high density of benefit applicants, and obviously we receive significantly high applications for discretionary housing payments from those. But the cost, I think you were getting at, was the cost, the spend on food. There was no significant difference.
Yeah, I do believe that's almost opening a can of worms, and it's almost, as Jane's asking, you know, is there a difference area by area? You can always go, you know, and to children, obesity and everything else, where you're buying the cheaper brand, you know, full of sugar and so forth and so on. So it opens a can of worms as to the effect. I'm interested in what Paula says. In terms of cluster, it'd be good if we could get an indication or a report on that as to, you know, is it in areas of that's recognised as high deprivation, very much dependent on income support of any kind. It would be good to know which would form part of the representation that I hope, and I think we've agreed, that we make to the Scottish Government, because it has an impact. It has an impact on what Ronnie's saying, you know, how people seek relief, let it be through whatever, drugs, drink, whatever, and the net effect or the negative effect that has on their health. It's all related, and it's to get that report. Travel, I see, you know, but how many can afford to travel? And for what reason? It's all there. And I think if we do, and I know at one of the area committees there was an excellent presentation made by a couple of officers on the impact that poverty is having, you know, the various benefits that are available. And I think that's what we need to make to the Scottish Government.
Jane, you want to come back in?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yes, my question was really about evidence gathering and being able to build up a picture to substantiate what we're suggesting to the Scottish Government. And of course, eventually the Scottish Government's going to be in charge of this and can decide themselves how they allocate what they're proposing to do. And I mean, yeah, I think that will be very interesting. but in the meantime, we need to get evidence ourselves so that we have a picture clearly that we can then lobby with.
Thank you. I'm assuming, I'm hoping that this evidence in terms of the picture it presents of the region and the areas in the region that tally with DWP claimants, etc., is already, I would assume, being fed into our anti-poverty strategy and the mapping exercise that we do with that. So I would hate to think that we'd need to duplicate work when it should already be part of a holistic approach to dealing with the wider anti-poverty initiatives within the strategy, which of course in itself, I would assume would be packaged in such a way that that could effectively build a representation through our agreed lobbying strategy or advocacy strategy. So in terms of an additional recommendation, which is I think what Ronnie and Willie were sort of moving towards there in terms of how we do that as a piece of business, I'm sure we have an agreed way of doing that in a process, and we have the evidence to hand, both within this and within the wider anti-poverty data that we're gathering. I'm making a lot of assumptions there, but I'm just hoping that somebody can confirm that that's what we're doing.
Stephen's right. There is a lot of evidence out there within the anti-poverty strategy, evidence being gathered regarding areas of deprivation and travel and various things like that. So yes, it's I'm quite sure it could feed into that. And you're right, Stephen, that that we have got a lobbying strategy, which is a long-term aspect of it. But some things you have got to look at in a different way, and you've got to look at the doing something in a speedy manner as well. But we have got background information that we can feed into that.
Found a way forward is to leave it to the officers to pull together that report, share it with members, and then if we all agreed on that, Colin then as the chair would sign it off and send it off to the agreed strategy, whatever. So we'll leave that to the officers. We'll ask you to bring all that together. Is that okay?
Chair, if I may, just to clarify that what we'll look to do is fully assess the impact of discretionary housing payment, national policy in a Dumfries and Galloway context, that the Council's clearly made every effort to mitigate as much as possible, and with obviously clear links to our existing anti-poverty strategy, because I think, as has already been outlined, there's a number of initiatives that we've already got well in place to deal with that very issue. So we'll pull that together on that basis, if members are happy with that.
I think in the anti-poverty strategy, you can use that as some kind of evidence for and put more focus on what we're trying to achieve in this.
Thanks for that. We'll move on to item 5, which is Scottish Welfare Fund and Discretionary Housing Payment Update. Lorna, are you leading on this one? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chair. The report's just an update on Scottish Welfare Fund and Discretionary Housing Payments to date, so I'm happy to take any questions on the report.
Members, any questions for?
Not so much questions, and Paul and Lorna and her department have been more than helpful to people out there that again from not just discretionary housing payment, for many other reasons, and it's great to see somebody walking away with a wee bit of cheer in their face when payments are made, and both Paul and Lorna and the guy next to it was great to see, because these are people that are really suffering. So I think we should commend the department for the way that they approach it and the way that they deal with it, the public out there.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's just a wee question just for clarification on 3.1, first paragraph basically, but reduced level of applications, the priority level for making awards has been further reduced from medium to low. So obviously you've got fewer applicants meeting the criteria, but there's a bigger assistance given. Is that correct understanding? And just on the back of that then, again, we've obviously got a picture here of where community care grants, grants, etc. have been given. And again, are you able to sort of maybe talk a wee bit about how this feeds into our map of poverty? Because obviously if there's fewer applicants, we can see them more clearly maybe, and we can see again where CF services are delivering all the goods basically, and how that's feeding into the wider body of information that we're gathering to get a picture of the region.
Thanks. What I would say is probably the biggest reduction in applicants has probably come through the community care grant side, and I think we've seen that reduction from when we started doing delivery of goods rather than cash. So some of that reduction, while I'm not saying overall demand has reduced, it's the way we deliver has maybe knocked out some applications that potentially would have been made in the past where people were seeking the cash rather than the goods. The information we hold within Scottish Welfare Fund and where applicants apply from, and their circumstances, we use that information to feed into that poverty strategy. Any information that we can use with regards to that. Obviously, with the crisis grants, the demand has remained slightly down, but not by a huge amount. That lot is, the qualifying criteria has remained the same for crisis grants.
Just to come back in, it's just on that. So the level of applications for both has reduced a bit. So it's just really, I suppose what I'm really trying to get clearer on is the qualifying criteria. And if we're awarding more to fewer, are we tied to the criteria in terms of the other things that you're nodding your head there? I'm sort of thinking, okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Just to confirm, yeah, the qualifying criteria are set by the Scottish Government, so we have to adhere to that. The reduction in priority level just means that we can spend more items, which is community care grant, crisis grant, award levels remain the same. There's been no change there.
If there's no further questions, we'll turn to recommendations. I think Willie made a good point. With these reports, we tend to focus on the negative because it's vulnerable people and people facing hardship. However, we fail to recognise that, as you say, Willie, members and officers are doing a cracking job to try and mitigate this. And so that's the positive out of a negative, if you like. So I totally agree with you there, Willie. Anyway, returning to the recommendations, 2.1 is the current position regarding the Scottish Welfare Fund spent and administration is detailed in 3.1 and 3.4. We note that, yep. And then 2.2, the current position regarding discretionary housing payment spent and administration is detailed in paragraph 3.5. Noted that. Thank you very much. We'll turn to item 6. And this is an update on the welfare reform changes, local impact, 2016-17 update. Reading that again, Lorna.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Just probably one further addition to the report. In 3.2, talk about the rollout of universal credit and it's starting full scale from May 2016. We did receive confirmation from DWP last week that Dumfries and Galloway won't be in tranche 1 or 2 of the rollout plan. So that means there'll be no full-scale rollout in our area until at least January 2017. The expectation is we will be advised probably about July time where we'll fall in the next phase of rollout. The only authority in Scotland that will be involved in the first rollout is Highland Council. They'll be one of their job centres in tranche 1 and the rest of their job centres in tranche 2. So we'll be probably speaking quite closely to Highland to see how that rollout is impacting on them. Happy to take any further questions on the report.
Yeah, Chair, I'm looking at UC and I'm looking at HB and I'm looking at DWP and everything else. Would it be within our gift to move that we get IDS to actually withdraw on this whole his welfare reform and everything else? I don't know if that would be coming, but it's what I hope we would do.
Would happily second you, Willie, but I don't have very much input. Jane.
I think that bus left, Willie, sometime ago. I'm quite intrigued at paragraph 3.4 about this business about locations of job centre pluses. There used to be one, of course, in Stewartry, immensely ironically, in council offices until they moved away, because it was in the Market Street offices, and it used the customer services reception, and was really perfectly sensible. But no, that was whipped away from us. So I think we should be following up what they're planning to do, because I can see maybe now there's a different way of doing things with technology having advanced considerably, but I would still expect to hear what was being proposed and whether or not it's possible for us to really use resources more effectively and efficiently. So that's really a plea at this stage. Thank you.
Harry's indicated he's got all the answers for you.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, as things stands, Lorna, Paul and myself have obviously discussed the implications and indeed the opportunities of this, and as things stand, that's really all we know. That we've simply had one line to say that at some stage in the future, local authorities may be requested to incorporate this. Obviously, given the work we've done recently in relation to service reviews, one of the things that has been highlighted loud and clear is the whole principle of improving customer service through the sort of hub concept, and certainly we strongly see the benefit of a whole range of different services being available at one point of contact that's as seamless as possible to customers. So clearly we'll need to be very aware of the resource implications of this, but certainly we'll keep members updated as and when we get any more detail on that. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, I may be being cynical on that, but there's absolutely no money being talked about here at all. There's no resource being talked about, and how it would actually roll out. My other fear would be that, this is a way to another bash at councils, if you want, because you're going to get people coming in for these services into council offices, and then when the cuts come, it'll be the council that's delivering these cuts, not the job centre plus, not the government. So that is another aspect that we need to consider, I would say, regarding that. But it's at an early stage just now, and as I said, I may be a bit cynical about things. But.
Stephen?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, similar concerns, I suppose, around, especially, there seems to be a specific DWP confirmation that there's no TUPE transfer for local authority staff impacted by the change of the rollout in the first universal credit thing, but also this intention to, sort of put job centre pluses, etc., in local authority buildings. So, and no details. So there's a kind of ramming together, but no sort of concession in terms of the staff that might be working on similar related things. So I'll await with interest what details come forward from UK government on that. I don't know if there's any information to be added. I mean, what does that mean in terms of there's no TUPE transfer impacted by the change? I mean, what sort of message is that sending out?
Well, as I say, Chair, we've certainly had this as a generic statement, and quite clearly resource implications, impact on staff, etc., is of huge consideration to us. And I think our intention is we've already requested that we try and get as much detail at the earliest opportunity. As soon as we do that, we'll try and interpret that into a Dumfries and Galloway context, but certainly our concerns are shared in terms of the impact, the resource implications, etc., and what that actually means for our service and, more importantly, our customers. So at this stage, this is really the only information that we've had from Westminster on this.
Thanks for that, Harry. Will you welcome in?
Yeah, please, Chairman. It's really for information. I'm looking at 3.6. Particularly to the last bullet point, support exempt accommodation. This accommodation will currently be higher rent level and so forth. And then it moves on to 3.7. A basic analysis of local data indicates 160 tenancies per year would be affected, and it's really two. And I'll use Stranraer as an example, where we at one time had 52 supported accommodation flats, etc., that we reduced at one time to 14. And it was considered, and I still believe, that indeed that wouldn't be enough. We now have 14, and that's provided by the private sector, but we have in other areas it done by registered social landlords. But it's the effect 3.7 will have. Will it have an effect in terms of what we can pay in terms of their set rates on rent, given supported lodgings and everything else? The people that use these.
Thanks. Well, short answer is yes, it will affect them. What you've got to be clear here is supported exempt accommodation does not refer to all supported accommodation. If supported accommodation is provided by a private landlord, it's not supported exempt accommodation. What we're talking about is accommodation provided by RSLs, charities, non-profit making organisations. But the bottom line is, yes, what they're talking about in these accommodations, they will restrict the level of housing benefit or housing costs under universal credit to the level of the local housing allowance. So where in these supported accommodations, they do normally attract a higher level of rent, which we can cover in housing benefit. I would caveat that as well, though, albeit we pay higher housing benefit, the cost is not fully met by central government. There is a cost of that already met by the local authority. 40% of the costs above the LHA rate are already met by at a cost to the local authority. But it's a significant impact, and certainly the support sector, and I think it was on national news this morning, are certainly starting to make representation about the impact that this will have on supported accommodation providers and tenants for any tenancy that starts after the 1st of April this year. So it has a significant impact.
I was just going to make that point. If you watched the TV this morning, nationally, UK-wide, there's a real concern because of the impact of what you just said with the supported or sheltered housing type schemes. The developers aren't going ahead because it's not cost effective for them anymore. So we're not providing for the elderly. So the point you made earlier about this whole, it just seems to piling in, and goodness knows what will be at the end of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, Chair. If we could get a report on the impact particular to that sector, because this will have an effect on those able to access. And it's around as well the time that they spend in these supported accommodation, because there are no houses, and that all was on the news shelter saying that we need, I just can't remember, thousands of houses built, and that is the case, so that they can move on and still have that support. But maybe if we could get, not maybe, but I would ask that we have a report on the effect of such landlords and the impact that will have on people if the landlord decides to walk away, saying that they just doesn't square the books. I think we need to know before the inevitable, if you like.
Is that request feasible? Workman first one.
Oh, just on that, I don't know if we've got enough information just now. I think first of all, we've got all the information, because it's like everything else, it's speculative at the moment.
I would agree. I think what we would do is speculating or anticipating. I think the figures we've produced here is based on the number of moves last year, and the 160 that I referred to in the report, I mean, that's the under 35s that would, people who are under 35, that would impact them. So I think all we can do is try and map what we think may happen. Bear in mind, we've not seen these regulations. They're saying that there's no exemptions in it, but that may evolve. So I think we will bring reports back the more information we get about it, but at this stage, it's just very much speculative.
I see the next meeting's on the 19th of May. Do you anticipate any? No, I don't think so either. It's going to be a wee while. Stephen?
Thank you. Ronnie, this is an area about which I really am not familiar, but I'm thinking about our role with looked after children, and being sure that we very specifically consider that group with respect to these changes here, because I think that that should be absolutely explicit in what we do. These are supposedly, our children, and we should be particularly focusing on their needs. So I don't know how many there are who would be particularly affected by this before April, but I would really like to see an absolute understanding that this must be dealt with before April, if we can. If we can't, we can't. But let's think about the handful that we will have, and let's not make any mistakes.
Well, in the discussions we've had, we've included social work services and looked after children. So we've spoken to the teams that that do work with us and made them aware of the implications. So we're doing what we can in that respect.
Well, it might not make it for April, but at May's meeting, would do a wee report on that specific point? Would that be possible?
I think we can bring back a report or include in the report any further information. At this point, again, we've spoke to social services, we've made them aware. So if we've got more information or more comes out from central government about it, we can give you an update on the current position.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, it was just, do we have information readily available just on housing benefit caseloads? I know it draws attention to the 47% of caseload is pensioner. Just daft question, but what counts as a pensioner now? Seems to be a horizon I'm never going to get to, but is there an actual fixed age for, like, does that include ones that have actually got to a pension before they've changed the age and all that? And does it, no?
63 is the normal, what we'd class. In housing benefit terms, it would be whatever triggers like the pensioner premium, am I like saying, yeah. So when we run reports off our records, we'll look at who's got a pensioner premium within their applicable amounts, and that classes as a pensioner for our records.
The information that I'm kind of interested in is there's 53% working age caseload of HB, 47% caseload is pension over 63 or whatever the triggers are. So I suppose really it would be interesting to see, and again this may feed into the anti-poverty strategy in terms of data, but what the demographic of that looks like, because without seeing that sort of information it's hard to know, does that mean, what sort of picture does that paint in terms of trends? Because we all know that the demographic is going to move towards an increased older population compared to the rest of the population. But in terms of what does the housing benefit picture look like for that as well, both age-wise and geographically. So it'd be interesting if that, or even if I can take that up offline or something. I don't know if it needs to feature in a report here.
I have all of the data. And I think it's probably easier that we take the discussion offline. I can have a look at the data we do hold, and you can work out what you want to know, rather than me come and give you 350 columns of data.
You happy to follow that up then, Stephen? Yeah. Thanks for that, Paula. If there's no further questions, I'll go to the recommendations. 2.1, members are to note the proposed universal credit rollout as detailed in 3.2, 3.4, and 2.2, the other welfare reform changes and the potential impacts and financial implications to residents as detailed in paragraph 3.5 to 3.11. Noted. And the next meeting we'll have all sort of the bits and pieces that we've asked for, as best we know it. So I have no further business, so I'd just like to thank you all very much for coming.